Welcome back, everyone, to Vox Markets. My name is Paul Hill, and by popular demand, I'm delighted again to be able to speak to CEO Bob Rauker, VP of Global Sales Bob Fary, and CFO Tony Dyer of Belluscura, a next-generation developer of portable oxygen concentrators that are used to treat patients with COPD and other respiratory conditions. So welcome, gents.
Welcome. Thank you for having us.
Yeah, well, big congrats on yesterday's inline 2022 results and positive outlook. And if I could go to Bob Fary here first, because I understand we've got this really, blockbuster or potentially blockbuster portable oxygen concentrator, the DISCOV-R device being launched in Q3. Can you take us through the sort of the initial reaction from customers and the feedback from end users?
Yes. We have a tremendous demand for this product already, and it has begun its field trials and been very, very successful. Tremendous positive feedback from the customers, the users that are helping us with that trial, and it makes us even more excited about the pending release of this device.
And what about that? You've got 125 distributors. I mean, that seems an awful lot of people who want to buy the product.
Yeah, that number has actually grown. I can't give you the exact number, but it's certainly greater than that. And that's because that product fills a niche right now in this market that there really isn't another product to fill. In other words, something that's so portable, but enables 2 liters of continuous oxygen as well as 8 settings. So it is a little bit disruptive, and we're very excited about it.
Brilliant. And then just moving now to Bob Rauker, in terms of sort of the key milestones to bring that product to market and to launch it, fully commercialize it in the US, what are you looking at? You've obviously got insurance cover, presumably, and any other things?
Sure. I think the big thing is, and just for reference, we're talking about the DISCOV-R. That's what Bob was talking about, and so the key milestones of this one will be finishing this evaluation that Bob discussed, and we get the user feedback, the usability study, as it's called. The planned launch is still in Q3, and that would be what we would call the full commercial launch. And Bob as he said, has already got people lined up. This product, we're anticipating it will be covered by Medicare. Our first generation product was covered too by both codes, the 1390 and 1392, both stationary and portable. That follows, and Bob, you can correct me, usually 30 to 60 days after the application. And for those people not familiar, Bob has many years of experience in this industry himself. So we were glad to have him come on board and join us. So we'll get the Medicare, Medicaid approval. We can sell the product on a cash pay basis even before that. So once we launch, we're not dependent. It's a key thing on the Medicare. It certainly is important for the large, what we call durable medical equipment companies. But for online sales, and roughly 50% of these units are sold on a cash pay basis. So we'll be able to start selling immediately.
Good. And what type of volumes, Bob, are we talking about? This Rauker, this is, in terms of, go as like initially and then sort of like next year, and also where's it being manufactured?
So I think Bob could talk to volume. I'll quickly go over manufacturing. Bob, we go Bob 1 and Bob 2.
Yeah,
so
okay.
Bob Fary can talk about volumes and what he's looking at doing. But from a manufacturing, the product, the DISCOV-R will be manufactured initially in the United States. It'll continue being made in the United States, just like Explore. But as also in our report is, we've started manufacturing. We've created Belluscura Shenzhen in China to meet what we expect to be a very large demand in China for both the Explore and the DISCOV-R, and we will transfer manufacturing of the DISCOV-R to China also to hit that Asia Pacific market. And Bob, you can speak a little bit more about your volumes and where you're thinking.
Yeah, I expect our volumes to meet our forecasts, and when you roll out a new product, it usually takes a little bit to really ramp up production. So we're going to do the rollout in a controlled fashion. But again, based upon the demand and what I know of the marketplace out there, this is going to be a very successful product for us.
Well, that's great to hear. So, Tony, if we've got this sort of the demand spike or the surge coming, in terms of the actual funding of the working capital and the finances, obviously you raised some money. If you want to take us through that and the use of proceeds and how you see the sort of like the cash runway ahead for the business.
Yeah, so we in January we went to the market and said we were looking for 10 million. We raised 5.1 in January and 3.7 almost as a second tranche of that in June. All the development work is pretty much done on the Discover. So we should be, we're in good position. We got everything ready to commercially launch. We obviously invested heavily in raw materials for the Explore device, and we're starting to see that unwind as Innomax. Those raw materials are going to Innomax and coming back as finished units at a very low cost because we've already pre-invested in that. So the cash runway is good, and with the demand of Discover, we're looking to be cash positive probably in the first half of 2024.
Well, that's great. That's sweet music to my ears. Now, actually, Tony, in terms of the profitability, I did see in the statement that the Discover device should be intrinsically a higher level of higher margin.
Yeah, I mean that's because as we talked about, the reimbursement for the DMEs is going to be much higher on the device because of the dual reimbursement. So it will demand, and obviously a bit of supply demand as well. It will be able to pick a higher price point.
Okay, good. Now, Bob Rauker, in terms of the sort of the sort of expansion strategy overseas, can you give us an update on how you see that in terms of rolling out into Asia and into Europe, etc.?
Certainly, and I'll let Bob speak a little bit also about the Europe, because he's this is something he's really been keying in on. But with regard to China, as I said, we started our entity, we built our entity, we have our first few hires down there. We're talking with distributors. We have our China registration is in process. We're expecting that in hopefully by the end of Q3. We also have Singapore, Hong Kong as at the same time. It's a very, very large market in China. We've had quite a bit of interest from a number of very large distributors that want to carry the product. As Tony mentioned, Innomax is part of a world-leading manufacturing organization. We feel really good about it. They have picked up the manufacturing, and they're already producing products at high-quality products for us at a very good transfer price. And that's along those lines as part of this usability study that we're doing with Discover. We're also doing the CE mark in the UK equivalent, the UKCA study at the same time, with a plan hopefully of getting, we don't have control of that because it's the authorized bodies that do that, the notified bodies I should say, but we're looking at probably a Q4 for that. And Bob can tell you a little bit more about a couple of things. I would tell Bob is why the Discover is going to be a very preferred product in Europe, and also just his experience with all the major distributors in Europe.
Go on then, Bob.
Yeah. Okay. There's going to be significant demand for this product in Europe, and just kind of to focus this, the largest oxygen market is the United States. Significantly larger, but the second largest market is Europe, and in Europe it is the global gas companies that are the oxygen providers, the Linde's, the Air Liquides, and so on. And they are still majority liquid oxygen providers, which is a very expensive way to provide oxygen. And because Discover has the 2-liter continuous ability, this is going to be something that's quite popular in Europe. I'm very excited about our prospects there.
Good. And then how would what would be the distribution strategy abroad? Because obviously you're doing a lot of D2C in the US, and you're expanding into with some distributors, but overseas in Asia and into Europe.
Go ahead, Bob.
Yeah, well, that's obviously distributors. Now, it depends how you define a distributor, Paul, right? for some, a distributor is a company that you hire to sell to all customers in that given territory. So let's say for China, we agree with a distributor that then is responsible for marketing our product. Whereas in Europe, some would also look at the gas companies as a distributor, but the gas companies are the companies that are providing directly to the patients. Right. So we would do business directly with them in Europe. So there wouldn't be a distributor in between us and basically our customer. Right. Whereas in some of the other markets like Singapore and Australia and in the Far East, we will likely have a distributor, working the product for us, which is kind of an extra level of distribution. Right,
good. And then Bob, in terms of sort of future product developments, is the Discover next generation 2 coming, or is it sort of like, let's get the Discover out first and
obviously get the Discover out first, and we haven't talked about it. We do have the Nomad app, which is going to have significant application in Europe because of telemedicine. That is out there in its phase 2 status. We will keep building on that as we connect more devices and we provide more data behind it and go forward. But Discover is the focus right now. But we're already, we have 2 or 3 other projects behind the scenes. We've been contacted actually for other uses of our oxygen by other companies. We've always kind of hinted that there are things that we do have done in the past, that we have had a number of these companies now come back to us asking, do we have the bandwidth to look at something? So we are evaluating. There are next generation stationary type units. We have a university that's doing some drug delivery research with our product. So there's a lot of different things going on in the background. Obviously, as a small company with limited resources, we focus on the big things, the primary product. But yes, there is quite a bit of stuff in the background that we'll probably look at once the Discover's out the door into the Q4 timeframe and start ramping up some of that technology.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think you've been extremely modest there, Bob, because given you maybe a small company, you've still managed to develop best-in-class technology. So it's not a bad effort, and you've certainly managed to recruit Bob Fary as well as an industry sort of veteran who's got lots of contacts. Now, just finally, then, Tony, in terms of sort of future news flow, obviously we've just released the audited results, etc. What should investors be having a trading update, or we don't need to? How do you see it into the interims in September?
Yeah, I mean, in the final results, obviously we gave an update. So we've got the AGM coming up in September. Yeah. And then obviously the Discover launch. So that's what's coming up over the next couple of months. And we, any other good news, exciting news we will update the market.
Yeah, well, I'm really looking forward to hearing when that full commercial launch of the Discover hits the ground, because that should be like looking at the feedback on some of the comments on the RNS, it's going down like a house in fire. So really well done, gents, and look forward in catching up in about 2 or 3 months' time.
Great, thank you.
Right, thank you. Bye-bye.